Breaking her silence, Grandma's traumatic funeral betrayal sparks a shocking revenge plot. Chapter 1: The Mysterious Beginning. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves, stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning, while outside, the distant howl of a lone wolf sent chills down Clara's spine. Something was undeniably wrong. A hidden truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The air grew thick with anticipation, spoke of an ancient curse that no one dared to challenge. Each strange occurrence piled upon the last, weaving a tangled web of mystery that pulled Clara deeper into the story, craving to know what sinister forces were at play. Just days ago, Clara had received the news of her estranged grandmother's passing. She felt numb. The woman had spent years in silence, and now the weight of her death bore down like a heavy fog. Guilt twisted in her stomach as she thought of all the harsh words she had never said, all the moments lost. But nothing could prepare her for what awaited her at the funeral. Standing among the mourners, she watched as distant relatives exchanged glances filled with unspoken judgment. The scent of wilting flowers mixed with the musty air, creating an atmosphere of stale sorrow that clung to her skin. As Clara stepped closer to the coffin, her heart raced. The body was surrounded by an array of gaudy riches, a stark contrast to the fraying edges of their family connection. And just as she tried to catch her breath, the lawyer announced the details of the will. Clara's pulse quickened as a name she didn't recognize echoed in the cavernous room. The entire estate, the lawyer stated, going on about assets and properties, has been bequeathed to a young woman named Lydia Morgan. The shock rippled through the crowd. Angry murmurs erupted, punctuated by accusing gazes thrown Clara's way. They had thought she would inherit everything, being the only grandchild, the last hope for the family legacy. But now it felt like a cruel twist in a dark tale only her grandmother could script. Guilt and anger swirled within her like a violent storm. What did this stranger mean to her grandmother? And what did it mean for Clara, left holding nothing but a chest of memories? In her grief, she felt the urge for vengeance beckon, a siren call pulling her deeper into the wreckage of family secrets. In the days that followed, she stumbled upon her grandmother's cryptic diary, hidden beneath layers of dust in an attic corner. Each yellowed page was filled with secrets that raised more questions than answers. Fragments of truth painted a picture of a tumultuous life, filled with regret, betrayal, and dark family secrets that had been carefully concealed, like landmines. Just as she contemplated the idea of forgiveness, a revelation surfaced. A photograph tucked within the book's frail pages, showing a smiling woman with hauntingly familiar eyes. Someone who could unravel it all. The moment she laid eyes on it, fear crawled up Clara's spine. Who was this woman? Could she shatter the fragile world Clara had tried to trust? As she gripped the diary tightly, a single thought settled heavily in her mind. Was the search for truth worth the chaos it could unleash? The chapter closed, leaving Clara staring at the photograph, heart racing, breath caught in her throat, at a crossroads where the past and future collided. What lay ahead might change everything she thought she knew about her family, igniting a wave of betrayal that could consume them all. Clara stood frozen, the photograph clutched tightly in her trembling hands. The familiar eyes that stared back from the faded image were striking, an unsettling glimpse of a woman who felt too close, too known. The air around her felt charged, electric. She could almost hear her heart pounding in her ears, drowning out the rustle of the diary pages. What had her grandmother kept hidden all these years? Before she could fully ponder the implications, a loud crash interrupted her thoughts. The attic door slammed open, rattling on its hinges, revealing Lydia Morgan, the very woman who had inherited it all. Clara's breath hitched. Lydia stood there, a mix of confidence and contempt radiating from her. Her glossy dark hair cascaded over a tailored blazer, and her eyes glimmered with mischief. Looking for something? Lydia's voice was smooth. But there was an edge to it, like a knife concealed within silk. Clara felt her heart drop into her stomach. "What are you doing here?" Clara managed, her voice barely above a whisper. The shock of the woman's intrusion sent freezing tendrils of fear wrapping around her heart. Lydia stepped closer, invading Clara's personal space. "Funny how that works, isn't it? You thought you could just stroll in and take what's yours," she taunted, glancing at the dust motes swirling in the suffocating attic light. "But it seems your precious grandma had other plans." Clara's thoughts swirled. "What do you mean?" She felt heat rise in her cheeks, a mix of anger and confusion. Lydia's presence felt like a storm ready to break. With a sly smile, Lydia produced an envelope from her bag, tossing it on the attic floor as if it were a deadly snake. "You don't know the half of it," she said, cocking her head. "Your grandmother had secrets, and I might just be the key to unraveling them." The envelope lay there, taunting Clara. She could see the edge of a wax seal peeking out, a family crest she didn't recognize. Ignoring Lydia's snide expression, Clara knelt to pick it up, her fingers shaking. The moment she broke the seal, an unexpected chill swept through the attic. A musty smell wafted from the envelope as she pulled out a folded letter. She read the words, each one a dagger to her heart. "To my dearest Lydia." It began, written in her grandmother's elegant script. The letter revealed that Lydia wasn't just a stranger. She was the daughter of Clara's grandmother, making them half-sisters. It all rushed in. Like a tidal wave, the stolen inheritance, the hidden relationship, the bitter history Clara never knew existed. Her breath caught in her throat. "No! This can't be true!" The room spun around her, the walls growing closer, suffocating. She met Lydia's gaze, searching for a hint of deception. But the woman seemed unfazed, reveling in the chaos she had sown. "Now you know," Lydia said, her satisfaction glimmering in her eyes. "Everything you thought you knew, it's all gone." Clara stumbled backward, her heart racing wildly. How could she do this? She felt ripped apart, the fragile world she trusted, crumbling. Suddenly the sounds of footsteps echoed from below, followed by hushed voices. Clara's pulse quickened. "We need to get out of here," she whispered urgently. Lydia's smile faltered. "Let them come. The truth can't hide forever, and neither can we." Just then, another crash echoed through the old farmhouse, shaking the foundation. The lights flickered violently before going out completely, plunging them into darkness. Clara's breath quickened. Was this a simple electrical failure, or was it another cruel twist of fate in the bleak legacy of her family? In the dim light, struggling to permeate the room, Clara could hardly see Lydia's face, but she felt the weight of the secret pressing down hard. What lay ahead? A family torn apart by betrayal? Or a reckoning that might finally reveal the tangled web of lies? Clara's heart raced with urgency as she realized the answers she sought could destroy them both. As the thick darkness enveloped the attic, Clara's heart thundered against her ribs, a caged animal desperate to escape. She felt the weight of secrets pressing down on her, choking her with fear. The shadows danced, whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. Lydia stood mere inches away, her face barely visible, but Clara could sense the victory radiating from her. "What do you want from me?" Clara managed, trying to mask her trembling voice, trying to hold on to a thread of her dignity. But inside, she was unraveling, one piece at a time. "Only the truth," Lydia replied, her tone curling with amusement. "And perhaps a little vengeance. Isn't that what you're really after?" Before Clara could respond, a loud thud echoed through the house, reverberating like gunfire. The lights flickered back on, and just as quickly they went dark again, returning the attic to its inky blackness. It felt as if the house itself was alive, as if it did not want the truth to escape. And then, from somewhere below, Clara heard a voice, a familiar one, a voice that made her blood run cold. "Clara, are you up there?" It was her mother. Panic surged through Clara. She had never wanted her mother to know about this family mess. Never wanted her to see her vulnerability exposed, like a festering wound. "Lydia," Clara whispered urgently, her eyes wide. "We have to go. She can't see us like this." But Lydia remained still, her expression unreadable. "Let her come," Lydia taunted, devouring Clara's hesitation with her gaze. "Let's see how far you'll go to protect your secret. Or is it mine?" Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from below, shaking the walls. It was followed by sharp screams. Her mother's voice mingled with others, filled with rising panic. Clara's heart dropped. "Mom!" She pushed past Lydia, rushing towards the door. In that moment, she didn't just flee. She leapt into a world turned upside down. As she stumbled down the dark stairs, the smell of smike enveloped her. Time slowed. The chaos below was a swirling mess of shouts and terror. Families were huddled together, their faces distorted in fear. Clara's eyes darted around, searching, praying her mother was safe. But then she spotted her mother, on the floor, clutching her chest, her face pale. A figure loomed above her. Clara's breath hitched as the man came into view. Tall and imposing, wrapped in shadows. "No, please!" Clara shouted, panic clawing at her throat. "Clara!" her mother gasped, reaching out weakly. "Get out! It's a trap!" Before Clara could process the words, the figure turned and ran. Lightning fast, he darted across the room, slipping through the crowd. Her heart sank as she realized that figure was familiar. It couldn't be. "I know him," Clara cried, but the words died in her throat. "Who? Who is it?" Lydia pressed, urgency finally breaking through her arrogance. Clara gasped. "It's my father!" The air crackled with disbelief, the realization rippling through her like a cold wave. Her father, the very man they had always believed was gone, dead and buried in a past filled with pain and silence. "Clara!" her mother shouted again, the fear etched deeply into her features. His return, hidden like a shadow, suddenly shattered everything she once knew. The weight of betrayal crashed down on her. But it wasn't just betrayal. It was a betrayal layered with the revelation about Lydia, the strange inheritance, and the secrets buried in their family grave. "Come on!" Clara's instincts kicked in as she grabbed her mother's arm, pulling her to her feet. "We have to!" And then, as if the house itself couldn't contain the chaos any longer, the floor creaked and gave way under their feet. Clara and her mother plunged into darkness. A scream escaped Clara's lips as the world around her fell apart. What had she lost? What would shatter next? The darkness swallowed them whole, leaving only questions behind. The darkness swallowed Clara and her mother, the world collapsing around them as they fell through the void. Air escaped Clara's lungs in a rush, her heart pounding in. Her chest, a raw panic making her limbs numb. She gripped her mother tighter, trying to sense her presence, to ensure they were together in this chaos. Then they landed hard. The impact sent shockwaves through Clara's body. Pain shot up her legs, and she gasped, blinking against the sudden burst of light flooding from somewhere above. Steady and reassuring. "Are you okay?" "I'm okay," her mother managed, but her voice quivered. Clara's senses sharpened, the sound of people above them muffled and distant. They were trapped, hidden away from the havoc. But before Clara could process their predicament, a shadow loomed over them, blocking the light. A figure emerged from the darkness, and Clara's breath hitched in her throat. It was Lydia. Her eyes sparkled with a knowing glint, amusement curling her lips. "Looks like you two took a little detour," she teased, her tone laced with mockery. Clara felt anger rise within her. Everything in her screamed to retaliate. But more than that, dread sank deep in her stomach. "Why are you here?" Clara spat, attempting to sound brave. "Because you're in over your head, Clara. You don't know the half of it," Lydia snapped, stepping closer. A shrill laugh escaped her lips, bouncing off the walls like a ghost. "What if I told you our mother's secrets go deeper than you think?" "What secrets?" Clara's voice trembled. Lydia grinned in the dim light. "Secrets about your dear father and what really happened to him." The words hit Clara like icy water, freezing her in place. "What do you mean?" Lydia stepped closer, her excitement palpable. "You think he's dead? You think your mother just lost him? There's so much more, Clara. He's alive, and he's the reason for all of this." Time seemed to stop. Clara's chest tightened, confusion mixing with disbelief. "You're lying. He can't be alive." But Lydia leaned in closer, her voice a low whisper. "Think, Clara. Why do you think everything changed? Why do you? You think this house is cursed? It's all connected to him and what he did." "No, it can't be true," Clara whispered, shaken to her core. Just then, the house trembled again, a violent shake that sent dust raining down from above. The sky dimmed. Shadows loomed longer. It felt like something was awakening. A sudden realization pricked her thoughts. Is this why Grandma cut us off? Why she hid everything? Exactly, Lydia nodded, her eyes gleaming with triumph. She didn't want you to know. But now it's too late. The truth is buried here, and it's coming for you. Before Clara could respond, another crash echoed around them, louder this time. The ground shifted, like a tempest, threatening to reveal its fury. Clara felt a swift rush of cold air as the faint outline of a door appeared in the shadows, slowly creaking open. "More than just a family secret awaits," Lydia said, voice dripping with anticipation. "Are you ready for the truth?" Clara's breath caught. Was she? As the door swung wider, the blinding light poured through like a river, illuminating everything, the secrets, the lies, and the unknown that lay beyond. A chilling wind surged past them, and Clara felt something pull her toward the light, an urgency beyond comprehension. Then from deep within the shadows, her father's voice resonated, rich and clear, echoing against the walls. "Clara, it's time." Terror washed over her. He was not just a ghost of the past. He was here, somehow among them. What decision loomed before her? Would she step into the light, where everything she thought she knew could unravel in an instant? The question lingered, heavy and painful, as they stood at the threshold of revelation. What awaited them beyond the door? Clara trembled, one step closer to a truth that could destroy everything and everyone she loved. The light poured into the room, illuminating the dust motes that swirled in the air like trapped spirits. Clara felt the warmth wash over her, but it only deepened the chill crawling down her spine. Lydia's eyes flickered with mischief, a predator teasing her. Pray. The truth was lurking. but it felt like a dark cloud choking the air around them. "Clara, it's time." Her father's voice echoed, thick with an unfamiliar authority. Clara's heart raced, unsure if it was fear or hope. Would it really be him? The ghost of her childhood, or the man who had abandoned them? "Father," she whispered, voice barely carrying over the growing noise in her head. "Come," he beckoned, shadows still veiling his face. A heartbeat felt like an eternity. But just as Clara took a step forward, the ground trembled again, stronger this time. Walls shuddered, dust falling around them like confetti from some forgotten celebration. "Look out!" Lydia shouted as the roof creaked ominously. Clara stumbled back, her knees buckling, and then, in a stunning twist, the very wall behind Lydia cracked, a jagged line forming. Clara's breath quickened as she watched a figure emerge from the shadows of the collapse, a woman. The fear around them froze as the figure stepped into the light. It was her grandmother. But not the frail old woman Clara remembered. This was a younger version of her, fierce and strong, with fire in her eyes that glimmered like polished gems. "Stop!" the younger version commanded. The weight of her voice was like lead, anchoring everything in place. "Grandma?" Clara gasped, disbelief coursing through her veins. This couldn't be happening. "Lydia, you fool!" The younger woman glared at Lydia, and in that moment, it felt like the walls themselves were listening. "You don't understand what you're playing with." "What are you talking about?" Lydia sneered, but her bravado began to falter under the weight of the revelation. "Everything, child. You think this is about inheritance? It's about survival." A chill swept over Clara. Survival? But survival from what? "Clara, listen. Our family, it's tied to something much darker," her grandmother continued, urgency thick in her voice. "He's not just back because of you. He's here for something else, something ancient." Everything in Clara's world shook. Her heart pounded, and the breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" The woman stepped closer, revealing the grim determination etched across her features. "Your father isn't the man you think he is. He's something different. Something dangerous." Dangerous? The word ignited Clara's pulse, racing. "What do you mean?" But before her grandmother could answer, the ceiling creaked, the walls trembled, and the space erupted. Cracks spiderwebbed across the attic. Dust filled the air, coating everything in gray. Clara turned to run, but felt the grip of Lydia's hand on her arm. "Stay with me." Lydia pulled her close, both of them driven together by the chaos unfolding. "Not this time," her grandmother shouted, thrusting a hand between them. "You need to know. His return changes everything." Suddenly, a deafening crash sounded as the roof caved in around them, overwhelming Clara's senses in chaos. Dust blinded her. Panic surged everywhere. Amid the swirling darkness, something inside her twisted. Was this truly her family? Were they allies or foes? Just before the world collapsed into silence, her father's voice carried through, deeper now, stronger. The truth will rise, and it will consume all. Then everything went black. Clara felt weightless, suspended in the midst of the storm. What was happening? What had she just discovered? Amidst the lingering darkness, Clara felt suspended in a void, weightless and lost, while chaos echoed around her. The air thickened with dust, memory, and dread. Her heart raced, trapped in confusion. The silence pressed in, thick and choking. Sharp crack split the air. Clara blinked, trying to focus. Light flickered again, casting unsettling shadows. The younger version of her grandmother stood firm, her gaze unyielding. "We to go, now!" But before anyone could react, an explosive sound cracked through the chaos. The floor beneath them shuddered violently. Clara gasped, terror shooting through her. It felt as if the world was collapsing. All around was a grating roar, resonating with a haunting, familiar pulse. And then it happened. The ground erupted beneath them, a gaping maw of darkness swallowing the attic whole. And a figure shot through the opening, colliding with the light. Clara's breath hitched. It was a woman, but not just any woman. It was her mother, smiling, radiant, eyes piercing with fierce familiarity. "Mom?" Clara's voice trembled, confusion flooding her heart. You're alive?" Lydia stepped back, eyes wide with disbelief. The air quivered with tension. Clara felt the ground shift beneath her again. Her mother did not speak, but her expression shifted from joy to urgent warning. "Get away from her! She's just a puppet!" the younger grandmother yelled, eyes blazing. "What are you talking about?" Clara exclaimed, bewildered. "Don't listen to my mother," her mother cried out, stepping toward Clara with urgency. "She's been lying. She's always been the problem." "I'm the problem?" Lydia shouted back, her confusion spilling into fury. "You're just mad because you're not the favored." "Child?" Clara stood frozen, her breath caught in a tight knot. "Favor? What do you mean?" she asked, fear mingling with the raw thirst for truth. "Enough!" the grandmother boomed, voice echoing like thunder. "You don't understand what's at stake." "What's at stake is our lives." Clara felt her chest tighten as unknown truths wrestled with everything she believed. "What's happening?" But before anyone could answer, the shadows pooled together, twisting. It was more than a trick of the light. It was as if the darkness had weight, a physical presence inciting terror. Clara trembled as the intangible became tangible, and a figure began to emerge, merging from smoke and shadow. It wasn't just her father anymore. It was something darker, something ancient and undeniably twisted. The figure's eyes glowed with malignity, devoid of warmth. "Mother," it rasped, voice like grinding stone. "You failed me. You were chosen." A chill slashed through Clara. Chosen? Chosen to bring about the end. The words hung in the air, cold and sharp as glass. Clara's heart raced, realization dawning brutally. "What? No! This can't be true! I can't believe any of this!" Lydia yelled, backing away, wide-eyed. The figure's laughter echoed, deep and unsettling. You all think so little of what's within, what lies beneath the masks we wear. Panic surged as Clara stared into the abyss of family secrets, freezing her to the core. Each revelation felt like fangs digging deeper into her flesh. What do you mean? What lies beneath? Suddenly, the air shifted again. The walls began to close in. Clara felt warmth, a fleeting sense of comfort. And then, shock overwhelmed her. The next words slipped through her mother's lips, a practiced incantation, as if unveiling a dark allegiance. I'm not just your mother, Clara. I'm part of this too. Part of what? Clara's voice cracked in disbelief. But as the air grew thick with tension, every revelation felt more unreal. The shadows twisted as the figure reached out, fingers stretching like claws toward her mother, eliciting a gasp. Mom, no! And just like that, everything Clara knew shattered into a million pieces. As the darkness lunged, it felt like the world was slipping through her fingers. Was anybody truly an ally? Clara felt their relationship unraveling as the apparent bonds of family transformed into a web of betrayal. "What are you hiding?" she shouted as the shadows closed around them. The truth approached like a storm, relentless, consuming, and no one knew who would survive. Would anyone emerge whole from the wreckage? The shadows loomed, hungry. And Clara was at the edge of darkness, teetering on the brink of discovery. What awaited her? What were they all truly capable of? Clara felt the air shift, thick with tension and fear. Lydia's words hung like fog between them, and she tried to make sense of everything happening. The figure's presence loomed ominously, whispering dark promises. Clara's heart raced, feeling the weight of betrayal tightening like a noose around her chest. "Mom?" she pleaded, desperately searching her mother's eyes for truth. But the air crackled with power, fogging her senses, drowning her in dread. "Get away!" her mother shouted, moving protectively in front of Clara, her face a mask of panic. "You don't understand what we're dealing with!" In that moment, the shadows twisted and swirled, pulling Clara's focus back to the figure rising in the light. The contours of its shape began to shift, revealing familiar features. It was her father, but different. His once warm eyes glinted with a coldness that felt alien. "We will be united," he hissed, voice dripping with malice. "I came back for you." "No!" Clara screamed, panic seizing her. "You can't be serious!" But before she could process the implications, the ground shook violently beneath them. A blinding light erupted, followed by a deafening roar that shattered the night as the very foundation of the house splintered. Clara instinctively grabbed her mother's hand, clinging to the warmth in the chaos. Suddenly, the shadows consumed everything, engulfing them in darkness, then bursting forth like fireworks in a void. Tiny fragments swirled in the air, neon and bright, revealing a harrowing sight. The walls shifted, peeling away layers of history, photographs, coins, memories, all laid bare, as if the house itself was being stripped of secrets. Amid the visible horror, her grandmother's younger self cried out, "You don't realize the truth!" Her edges blurred, lost in the storm, a fleeting apparition, tugged away by some unseen force. "Enough!" the figure roared, and in an instant, the beautiful chaos turned unbearable, pain stabbing through Clara's heart. "You must choose." "Choose what?" The question slipped out, raw and trembling, an ember against the raging tempest around her. But then came an unexpected transformation, a shock through the fabric of reality, drawn to the fear hanging thick in the air. It let out a roar that sent shockwaves coursing through Clara's body, making her blood run cold. "No! Go back!" she screamed. But something inside her recognized the creature. It carried her father's essence, twisted and corrupted. The realization slammed into her like a bullet. Her heart stopped. Dad! Her father? Was he really back? Or was this a darker version? A fragment of what he had become? "Clara," he whispered, reaching for her as the monstrous figure writhed. She hesitated, caught between a tumult of emotions. Love, eyes glowed, embers of fury igniting. "I am your choice. Choose me, and the darkness will obey." But then, to her astonishment, her mother stepped forward, her resolve unshakable. "No, Clara, don't!" she cried, tears streaking her face. The creature's presence sparked an instinctive fear, but it melded with something else. The fabric of the moment hung heavy with urgency, revealing an unspeakable connection. "Mom, what do you mean?" Clara felt the air freeze, inching closer to a revelation that felt too monstrous to grasp. Before she could breathe, the walls trembled again, and the figure lunged. But then something shattered the gloom. A searing light erupted within the shadows, illuminating everything in a blinding glow. The world blurred in brilliance, a storm of chaos and clarity colliding. As Clara shielded her eyes, she heard Lydia's voice cut through. "This changes everything!" But what could change? Clara's mind spun as everything she knew crumbled. Each heartbeat thundered in her ears as she grasped the extent of what lay before her. The truth was a jagged edge, ready to slice apart their lives. As things began to settle, the light faded, revealing the figure reduced to mere shadows. Clara's throat tightened, breaths coming in gasps. "What is the truth?" she demanded. But as she looked around, the scene shifted once more, raising new questions. What did it all mean? Reality wove itself into something new, dark undercurrents flowing beneath their feet. Standing at the edge of her past, Clara knew she had to decide. What would the truth uncover? What would it ultimately destroy? Clara felt the air shift, thick with tension and fear. Lydia's words hung like fog between them, and she tried to make sense of everything happening. The figure's presence loomed ominously, whispering dark promises. Clara's heart raced, feeling the weight of betrayal tightening like a noose around her chest. "Mom," she pleaded, desperately searching her mother's eyes for truth. But the air crackled with power, fogging her senses, drowning her in dread. "Get away!" her mother shouted, moving protectively in front of Clara, her face a mask of panic. "You don't understand what we're dealing with." In that moment, shadows twisted and swirled, pulling Clara's focus back to the figure rising in the light. The contours of its shape began to shift, revealing familiar features. It was her father, but different. His once warm eyes glinted with a coldness that felt alien. "We will be united," he hissed, voice dripping with malice. Clara's instincts screamed. Tears pricked at her eyes. She felt helpless. Caught between a past she wanted to understand and a present that felt like it was collapsing. "No," Clara screamed, panic seizing her. "You can't be serious." But before she could process the implications, the ground shook violently beneath them. A blinding light erupted, followed by a deafening roar that shattered the night as the very foundation of the house splintered. Clara instinctively grabbed her mother's hand, clinging to the warmth in the chaos. Suddenly, the shadows consumed everything, engulfing them in darkness, then bursting forth like fireworks in a void. Tiny fragments swirled in the air, neon and bright, revealing a harrowing sight. The walls shifted, peeling away layers of history. Photographs, memories, all laid bare as if the house itself was being stripped of secrets. Amid the visible horror, her grandmother's younger self cried out, "You don't realize the truth." Her edges blurred, lost in the storm. A fleeting apparition tugged away by some unseen force. "Enough!" the figure roared, and in an instant, the beautiful chaos turned unbearable, pain stabbing through Clara's heart. "You must choose." "Choose what?" The question slipped out, raw and trembling, an ember against the raging tempest around her. But then came an unexpected transformation, a shockwave rippling through the room. Before anyone could react, something erupted from the shadows. A creature, raw and grotesque, with writhing limbs and hollow eyes, tore through the fabric of reality. Drawn to the fear hanging thick in the air, it let out a roar that sent shockwaves coursing through Clara's body, making her blood run cold. "No! Go back!" she screamed. But something inside her recognized the creature. It carried her father's essence, twisted and corrupted. The realization slammed into her like a bullet. Her heart stopped. Her father, was he really back? Or was this a darker version, a fragment of what he had become? "Clara," he whispered, reaching for her as the monstrous figure writhed. She hesitated, caught between a tumult of emotions: love, betrayal, horror. "Stay back!" Clara shouted, anger bubbling up. "You're not him. You're a monster." His eyes glowed, embers of fury igniting. "I am your choice. Choose me." and the darkness will obey. But then, to her astonishment, her mother stepped forward, her resolve unshakable. "No, Clara, don't!" she cried, tears streaking her face. The creature's presence sparked an instinctive fear, but it melded with something else. The fabric of the moment hung heavy with urgency, revealing an unspeakable connection. "Mom, what do you mean?" Clara felt the air freeze, inching closer to a revelation that felt too monstrous to grasp. Before anyone could breathe, the ground shook again, sending fragments flying, the ceiling cracking above them. And then, with a loud bang, the walls caved in. But instead of collapsing, the debris formed a hazy shield around them, creating a barrier against the looming shadows. And through the dust, a figure emerged, shrouded in light. Clara's breath hitched again. It was a woman, her face eerily familiar. It was the grandmother she thought she knew, but this was no gentle spirit. Her grandmother raised. Her hands, rays of warmth emanating from her fingertips, slicing through the darkness. "You think you know your family? You think you know me?" Recognition dawned on Clara, her heart racing. "What do you mean?" The woman stepped forward, her eyes fierce. "All of you, you're living a lie. Not only is your father alive, he's not who you think he is." "What?" Clara's voice trembled, a lump forming in her throat. "Those shadows, they're your father's past. They are born from him." "But he is a vessel," the woman continued, voice steady and piercing. "He has always been one with the darkness." Everything Clara thought she understood began to shatter. The ground below them quaked again. The barrier flickering as shadows surged, threatening to consume their fragile sanctuary. "Choose!" her father roared, voice echoing. "Join me, Clara!" "No!" Clara cried, panic rippling through her. "I'll never join you!" The revelation struck like lightning. The family she fought to protect was entangled in a web of lies, betrayal, and dark legacies reaching back from the very shadows of their lineage. Was it too late? Was her family forever bound to this fate? The monsters they feared were not just outside, but dwelled deeply within. Where did loyalty lie? And was there even a chance for redemption now? The runes spun, chaos spiraling. All that remained was uncertainty. And this time, Clara would have to make a choice far darker than she had ever imagined. As Clara stood amidst the chaos, the air crackled with energy, heavy and suffocating. Her father, not the man she remembered, loomed before her, a twisted reflection of the love she once knew. The sense of betrayal cut deep, a jagged knife that twisted painfully in her heart. "Clara!" His voice dripped with manipulation, wrapped in a dark allure. "Join me. We can reshape everything." Lydia stepped back, her bravado faltering. "You're not him," she shouted, panic threading her voice with desperation. Clara felt the ground beneath her tremble again, a foreboding tremor that sent fear coursing through her veins. "Stay back!" Her mother's voice rang out, fierce and protective. Though Clara could see the worry etched across her face, the swirling shadows seemed to shift closer, whispering secrets too terrible to hear. "Clara, listen," her grandmother interjected, urgency breaking through the fear. "You must choose wisely. Your father is not offering salvation. He's a harbinger of doom." The false sense of safety shattered as the dark figure lunged forward, its claws glinting in the faint light. Clara's heart drummed a frantic rhythm in her chest. In that instant, it all became too real. This was not merely a family reunion. It was the culmination of dark forces brewing beneath the surface. Then, in that moment of sheer panic, the shadows erupted. A blinding light pierced through the darkness, illuminating the chaos as if the heavens themselves had split open. Clara shielded her eyes, the brilliance taking her breath away. But then, through the light, something emerged, a figure radiating warmth, pulling Clara's focus. It was a woman, familiar but radiant, stepping into the chaos like a beacon. "Mom?" Clara's voice trembled as a rush of disbelief swept through her. "Clara!" her mother cried, moving towards her with open arms. But the shadows surged, almost threateningly. "You need to know the truth." And that was when it happened. The radiant figure began to transform. The comforting warmth twisted, contorting into something grotesque. Clara gasped as her mother's face shifted, revealing a grin that felt both terrifying and wrong. "You've chosen too late, my dear," the figure mocked, voice now cold and hollow. "Mom?" Clara choked, confusion battling with terror. The figure laughed, a sound that sent icy fingers creeping down Clara's spine. "You think you can escape this family?" The light dimmed, and Clara felt a sinking dread as understanding cut through the chaos. "No, no, this can't be real!" she shouted, but the truth glistened in the air, sharp and unforgiving. "You knew? You were a part of this all along?" The shadowy figure of her father flickered at the edge as her mother's form coiled like smoke around Clara, laughter echoing with malice. "You were born into this, child. You belong with us." Everything she had fought for began to unravel like string pulled from a fragile tapestry. The room trembled as if the very foundations were responding to the disarray of emotions clashing violently. Clara felt the tightness in her chest grip her, threatening to steal her breath. "No!" she screamed, surging forward to break free from her mother's grasp. The darkness deepened, and in that split second, Clara made a choice. Just as she stepped away, a bone-chilling howl ripped through the air. A monstrous entity erupted from the depths of the shadows, a creature snarling, a grotesque concoction of her father's malevolence. It lunged, but just before it pounced, a new force surged across the room, a wave of sheer energy born from Clara's own will, pulsing fiercely. Clara didn't control it. It controlled her. It clawed at her mind, revealing a dark connection, a power she never knew existed. "Clara!" her mother cried out, horror etched in her features. "You don't know what you're doing." But as the energy swelled, Clara barely heard her mother's warning. The truth had crystallized before her, revealing the chains that bound them, a legacy of darkness. Then everything exploded. A blinding flash engulfed them, a purity so intense it felt like fire. Clara braced herself, the full magnitude of her lineage crashing down as shadows danced, fighting against the light she had summoned. As the room imploded into silence, all Clara could see was the aftermath, a haze of confusion swirling around. Like fog. And then she felt it. A shift in the fabric of reality. Was this the moment she could change everything? Or had she crossed a line that would forever alter her fate? Questions hung in the air, weighty and dark, echoing louder than the chaos that preceded it. And as Clara searched the stillness, the question remained. What had she unleashed? The light exploded in a kaleidoscope of colors, swallowing the darkness whole. Clara felt a buzz of energy course through her as she faced her father, the monstrous figure painted in shadow. "I won't become what you are!" she screamed, voice firm, heart racing with conviction. His twisted smile wavered, momentarily shaken by her resolve. "You think you have a choice? You are of my blood." "No, I am my own person!" Clara shouted, her words striking the air with electricity. With each moment, the power within her simmered like a pot ready to boil over. Suddenly, her grandmother glimmered brightly, pushing against the shadows. "Clara, remember who you are. You have the strength of this family, but you can forge a new path." "Together!" her mother cried, stepping forward, hands outstretched, full of love and urgency. Clara felt a surge of warmth from her mother's presence, anchoring her. The shadows writhed at the edges, furious and hungry, sensing their defeat looming. "Stop this!" Lydia shouted, scrambling backward, fear pouring from her eyes. "This isn't what we want." Clara fixed her gaze on her father. "You want darkness. You want chaos. But I choose light." She felt the energy swell within her, a beacon breaking the storm around them. She thrust her hand forward, a blast of light radiating from her core. "No!" he roared, the darkness clawing at his form as the light consumed everything in its path. The walls disintegrated into brilliant fragments, floating into nothingness. Clara squeezed her eyes shut, their truth into the world, bright, unyielding, and unstoppable. Light erupted, a force of nature that swallowed the darkness alive, extinguishing the creature that had been lurking in the shadows. Clara gasped as she felt the last remnants of her father's dark essence disappear, leaving behind an echo of lost dreams, like whispers carried away by the wind. The silence that followed was overwhelming. Fading echoes bounced against the walls. The room was a tableau of transformation, vibrant and serene. Clara opened her eyes, heart racing, still trembling. The family was whole again, raw yet resilient. Did it work?" Clara whispered, searching their eyes for assurance. Her mother nodded, tears of relief shimmering like pearls. We've broken the cycle. The darkness is gone. Lydia stepped forward, her expression softening. I'm sorry for everything. Can we start over? Clara hesitated, but then felt warmth spread within her. We can't change the past, but maybe we can leave it behind. The others nodded, uniting in that shared decision. Together, they stepped past the ruins of their history into the uncertain light of tomorrow. What lay ahead was open, filled with possibilities. Clara felt hope swell within her chest, a new awakening. In the quiet aftermath, Clara turned, gazing into the horizon. This is just the beginning, she said, a smile breaking free. And as they moved forward, uncertainty lingered, but so did courage. Clara took her. Family's hands, ready to explore the unknown together, forging paths unbound by the past. But somewhere deep inside, a question still hung like a mist in the air. Would their new beginnings hold the shadows of past secrets? You need to subscribe now. You don't want to miss what's next. This is the moment to show your support for more stories that ignite your imagination. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions. What do you think of the ending? Share your theories. Don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who have to know its conclusion. Your support means everything.